Indiana Fever versus Los Angeles Sparks. I'm sure you have questions like why did the Fever lose after winning 2 games in a row? I may have a couple of answers for you. Let's get into it. Before we get started with these answers as to why they lost, why they failed, let's look at this. Watch Hamby go to work. Here she goes. And now this is Mitchell, 3-pointer. Didn't get it, but Boston backed her up. Good job, Boston. Next, we see Hamby with the ball. Then we got Kelsey Plum, 3-pointer. Boom. There's Kelsey again with the ball. Over to Stevens. Boom, 3-pointer. There we go, Boston, backing in. There we go, 2 points. Good job in the paint. The Indiana Fever and the Sparks were pretty much evenly matched as teams, except for the Sparks had a few more bigs than the Fever did. You had Hamby, you had Stevens, you had Jackson, and a couple of others. And that did make a difference. But let's get into the reasons why they failed. 1, if you have a lead in a game, you want to capitalize on that lead. You want to hold on to that lead. You don't want anyone jeopardizing that lead. At one point in the game, I think it was in the third quarter, that the Fever had, I think it was a 7 or 8 point lead. They didn't keep it though. Another time in the fourth quarter, they had a 5 point lead. Did they keep it? No. I think the Sparks might have had maybe a 3 point or 4 point lead at some part of the maybe first half. The key thing is this. Once you have a lead, you want to keep the lead and capitalize on the lead by not letting your opponent take it away. The Indiana Fever was not successful in doing that. But that's not really one of the reasons why they failed against the Sparks. Number 1, reason why they failed. They allowed their opponents to get to the free throw line. Not just any of their opponents, they allowed the opponents that could actually get the buckets, who had maybe 80% or 70% ability to get those buckets at the line. And they did. Not only did they do that, they did it when it was crucial to happen. Third and fourth quarter. Okay? So you can have a good defense, you can have a good offense, right? But if you continue to send players, your opponents, to the line, they're going to grab some free points, especially when they're good at the line. So don't do it. Do not foul your opponents, especially in the fourth quarter when it's crucial and you are so close together. You are so close together like neck and neck. Why would you foul the other team? You would stay away from that. If someone's going up to do a layup and you know they're going to get it, get out of the way. Get out of the way. You guard as much as you possibly can, but up until the point where you're going to foul them, you get out of the way, especially when you're in the fourth quarter of a game. So that's number 1 reason why they failed against the Sparks. Number 2, The second reason why they failed against the Sparks. Defense. You see, the Sparks had defense, Fever had defense. They both were battling each other in terms of defense. And when you're up against someone like the Sparks or any team, you cannot let your defense lax. You cannot. The minute your defense lacks is a minute where it throws things off and your opponent can make points. And guess what? You lose points that could have been yours. So these two teams were neck and neck in their defense. And so in the third and the fourth quarter, you can't afford to be lax in defense. You can't afford to be so lax in defense where you are so defensive that you foul your opponent, get them to the line for free throws, and they make them. And guess what? A part of your opponent's defense is to know when to put the pressure on, when to be disruptive against their opponent. So people like Kelsey Plum knows, she's a vet. She knows that, hey, if I get to the free throw line, I'm going to get some free buckets. She already knows that. She also knows how to make you foul her. So, and she's an 80%, if not more, free throw maker. So you do not foul or cause your opponent, especially if they're like Kelsey Plum and others on their team, to get to the free throw line. You must have adequate defense, and that defense has to be a defense that's not going to foul that opponent. And this is where I believe the Indiana Fever lack in. They have to know how to guard and defend their territory without fouling, without giving their opponents points. Because if you do that, it defeats the purpose of you guarding. It defeats the purpose of your defense if you're giving or handing them, points. It makes no sense. Okay? And let me just say, all right, yes, there are teams who have ups and downs. Every team that we'll find in the WNBA have ups and downs where they might win 2, they might lose 1. They might lose 2, they might win 3. This happens in basketball. Yes. Sometimes you have a hot hand on the court that can shoot 3-pointers. Every one of them go in. Other times, that's not the case. So in order for a team to capitalize on those maybe or maybe not times, you have to be aggressive, you have to be gritty, and take what you can take when you can take it. And the Indiana Fever has not quite learned this yet. Not quite. Now, granted, they were good in terms of defense. They were good in terms of offense. They did what they could do. All right, they weren't a bad team when they played against the Sparks. And the Sparks are not a bad team. They actually played well against the Fever. But I believe I told y'all before that when it concerns the Sparks, it's always the third, latter part of the third, definitely in the fourth quarter, where they rally. They rally. And if another team, if their opponent is not going to rally with them, then guess what? The Sparks are going to win. Especially now that they got a lot of their crew back that were out for injuries or out for other reasons. Now that they're back, and these are mostly bigs. Okay? So I don't know if the Indiana Fever did their homework or not. Maybe not as much as they probably could have. Because you don't want to sleep on Kelsey Plum. You don't want to sleep on Rickea Jackson. You don't want to sleep on, Hamby or Stevens. No. They're there to win. They're there to make buckets. And now, like I said before, a team could be up and winning, or a team could be losing. But in this WNBA 2025, you can't let your guard down, because on any given night, it could be any given team that could win if you're not up to par. So you have to be on your guard. You got to be on that court ready to roll. You got to be ready to get those buckets and hungry for it, and be aggressive and have grit while you're on that court. Otherwise, it could be your night to lose. Okay. Let's look at some of the quarters and then the scoring. After this, I have one more reason as to why they failed, why the Indiana Fever failed against the Sparks. Here we go. The first quarter, Sparks 21, Indiana 23. So Indiana's up a little bit. They needed to keep that going. All right. Quarter number 2, Sparks 21, Indiana 22. Still about the same, down by 1. Okay. They're doing something consistently. All right. Quarter number 3, Sparks 28, Indiana 24. Now the Sparks are making a run. They are energized to get their buckets. They are guarding. They are running the court. They are doing whatever it takes to make a move. Quarter number 4, Sparks 19 and Indiana 18. Here we see a crucial fourth quarter where Indiana can't afford to foul the Sparks. They can't afford to send them to the line. They can't afford to do anything but to do exquisite and precise guarding. They have to defend with precision. Okay, no mistakes, no turnovers, none of that stuff. It ended up being Sparks 89 and Indiana 87. Now, okay, it's only by a couple of points. We get that, right? But that couple of points won the game for the Sparks. So points matter. Whether it's 2, whether it's 1 by 2, by 5, whatever it is, it matters. And I think that a learning that the Fever got from this game is that it's not over until it's over, and that they cannot foul the opponents. They cannot do mistakes that cost them the game, right? Okay, Howard had 21 points. She did great. She had 21 points. She made a couple mistakes in there, though, where she fouled her opponent, and they got buckets, okay, a couple times. Boston, 23. She did wonderfully, okay? And her taking that last shot at the end in the fourth quarter that could have tied them, she did make that shot earlier in the first half. She did make that shot. So that shot could have been made, but she didn't have enough on the ball for it to get into the hoop at the last minute. Mitchell, 19 points. Aerie, she had 4 points. And Hull had 5 points. Those were the starters. And there was Mitchell made 3 out of 6 3-pointers. Howard made 1 out of 2. And Lexi made 1 out of 2. Okay. Now, for the bench, Michaela Timpson was on the floor. And she did well on the floor. She got 5 points, okay? And she got 1 of 2 from the free throw line. She had 6 rebounds, and that was great. She did also have 2 turnovers and 1 block.
Ball games. Yeah, Timpson taking 19th overall. Set school records. Ooh, there's a nice block, by the way, from Timpson. I was going to mention 3 times.
But all in all, that was pretty good. Colson had 6 points, and she had 2 of 3 3-pointers made. Sophie had 4 points, and she did well as she did well as well. And see, the thing is that okay, they did well, and they were doing well up until they started making mistakes that didn't need to happen, and a lot of that had to do with turnovers. They had they had 9 turnovers, and even though the Sparks had 7, 9 turnovers or 7 is unacceptable. It shouldn't be that many. Now the Sparks. Okay, we had Hamby had 18 points, Stevens 21 points, Jackson 15 points, Plum 20 points, Alamon 5 points. That was the starters. And out of them, Stevens had 3 of 7 3-pointers made. Hamby had 1 of 1 made. Plum had 4 of 8 made. And Alamon had 1 of 2 made. Then we have from the bench, Russell had 5 points. Van Loo had 3 points. And Burrell had 2 points. And out of them, 1 of 1 3-pointer was made by Van Loo. Okay. And that was good. Now, in terms of their percentage, in terms of the field goals, they had 48.6 percentage was Indiana Fever, and for the Sparks it was 49.2%. And as far as for the 3-pointers, 35% was for Indiana, and 45.5 was for the Sparks. And in terms of the free throw line, 63.2% for the Indiana Fever, which was basically 12 out of 19. And for the Sparks, it was 65%, 65.2%, 15 out of 23 times at the line. That should not happen. Okay? It should not happen. Okay? The largest lead was by the Fever, which was 8. And the largest lead that the Sparks had was 3. So again, like I said, when they had that 8-point lead, they needed to focus on that and keep it. But they didn't. The last point that I want to make why the Indiana Fever failed against the Sparks. The last one is consistency. They have to be consistent throughout every quarter, especially the quarters that matter, like the last 2, specifically the fourth. They must be consistent with their defense. They must be consistent with taking shots, getting the space that they need to take those shots, 3-pointers and such. They need to not make mistakes in fouling their opponent so that the opponent goes to the line. Okay, so in the fourth, well, latter part of the third, but definitely in the fourth, their defense started to get a little laxed and a little chaotic, which means that at some point there, the Sparks were disrupting the Fever's plan. Okay, however little it was, it was still being disrupted enough so that they could win by 2 points. Okay. And I think at the end, when Boston went to take that shot to tie the game, that there could have been nerves there, okay, and it happens, it does happen, okay, but you really want to make sure you're putting the ball in the hands of the person that's going to get the shot. And she did make that shot before, so their assumption was spot on, but it just wasn't meant to go in, I guess. So we see in this game that when you have 2 teams that have equaled each other out in some ways, okay, that you're going to have a battle, and you can't afford to make mistakes. You have to really watch the other opponent to know how they play and to play against what they do. Okay? Because again, Kelsey, Hamby, Jackson, Stevens, they can all shoot the buckets. They can all get the buckets. They can all, hit from the free throw line. They can all do that. Okay? And so there you have it. You have a breakdown in terms of fouling, a breakdown in terms of defense, and their consistency. That's why the Fever failed against the Sparks. That's it in a nutshell. So, all that said, hey, I hope that you've enjoyed your time with me today. I've enjoyed being with you. All right. And hey, this is your time. If you've enjoyed my content, you enjoyed my perspective, come on home and subscribe. Come on home and subscribe. And when you subscribe, just make sure that you give me a thumbs up because that matters. And it can be very helpful to me getting to 1,000 subscribers. You can help me with that. And also, don't forget to tap on the bell because then you'll be notified when there's new content. I really enjoyed the game, and I hope that you did too. Let me know if you have any comments about what you saw in the game or something that maybe I missed or what have you. But hey, sometimes we lose, sometimes we don't. No matter what, it's always Go Fever. We look forward to the time where CC is 100%, and I'd rather her not play if she's not 100%, right? We don't want her to re-injure herself. And I think the team is still solid and moving in the right direction. The key thing is don't go backwards, continue to go forward, right? So, all that being said, my name is Barbara, around the WNBA. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, peace. Talk to you soon. Blessings.